So, if you've been paying attention to the news recently, you may have heard something about Trump wanting to take over Greenland, and maybe you dismissed it or just laughed it off, which I don't blame you. The guy's kind of a fucking lunatic. But keep in mind, the US did bomb Venezuela and capture their president, so the US taking over Greenland isn't out of the realm of possibilities. If the US were to take over Greenland, that puts not only the US but the world in a very interesting situation. And I'll explain it to you because I have a decent understanding of geopolitics. Greenland is a part of Denmark. Denmark is a part of NATO, and the US is also a part of NATO. Now, if you're not too familiar with NATO, NATO was created during the Cold War to combat the Soviet Union, later Russia, and one of the articles in NATO is an attack on one member must be considered an attack on all members. And fast forward to today, Trump wants to invade Greenland, which obviously puts NATO in a very weird situation. And Russia and China are looking at what's happening right now and are sensing once in a lifetime opportunities as they're watching the US bomb Venezuela and capture their president and potentially take over Greenland. And who's not to say that they aren't going to start invading other countries as well. Now, if you don't believe me, there's other similar examples like the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I'm not going to go too in depth on the Cuban Missile Crisis. If you want to learn more, just do some research. But basically, during the 1950s, the Soviet Union and the US were having a nuclear arms race. And during this period, the US started to put missiles across Europe to basically counter Russia, and most notably in Turkey, which was in striking distance of mainland Russia. So Russia's looking out at what's going on and is trying to find an opportunity to counter the US back. And lo and behold, Cuba becomes a communist country. The Soviets would send missiles to Cuba, and I'm not going to go more in depth, but basically tensions started to rise between the US and Soviets, and the world would almost enter into World War III. Just for the record, I don't believe if the US were to invade Greenland, the world's gonna enter into World War III. I hope not. But if the US just keeps on interfering in other countries, then it definitely increases the risk of maybe not World War III, but a potential war. Or if the world does nothing about it, then the US is just going to keep on taking over other countries, like invade Canada. Just kidding, I hope not.